let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Gentlemen, we just saw it Thursday night. We all rather enjoyed it. My opinion has not wavered since that time. I wanted to see it again. Unfortunately, my little man has been sick all weekend, so we haven't had a chance to see it again. But I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
I also have not had a chance to go see it again as well. I wanted to. My plan was to definitely check it out like on Saturday or yesterday, but I did not get a chance to.
Yeah, me too. I was just too busy the rest of the weekend to see it again. And then I wanted to, if I got done working early enough today, I wanted to try and see it before we came on here. But alas, no. But
hey, look who's able to join us tonight.
Who's that?
Carrie.
Carrie! Wow, on a Monday?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Telling you, see it, man.
So, Carrie, did you see it? And by the way, I was just checking. It made $104 million at the box office, which seems kind of low.
See, I saw it made $120 million domestically,
Worldwide.
and 200 and I think $225 million worldwide. That's what I saw on.
They'll have to update this. This is what site is this? Variety.
When did they release that? Was that from today?
Said a day ago. Okay, so and then Rotten Tomatoes says 104 million 3 hours ago.
And that's domestically. But hey, it was a good movie. You know, it's funny because
And that's all we have to say. Okay, next topic.
Yes. Okay, next. But you know, the critics score on Rotten Tomatoes is like 47%, which is the
Ridiculous.
worst an MCU movie has done. And then the audience score is like 84%. So it sounds like, for whatever reason, critics had a problem with this. But I don't, you know, we didn't.
Audience score is totally different. That kind of threw me for a bit of a loop because usually when it comes to these MCU movies and shows lately, it's the audience score that's really low, and this is not some sort of like conspiracy theory. It is known to have happened where you've got people who will review bomb on Rotten Tomatoes, even if they haven't seen the show or the movie. They'll give it a terrible review, you know, the lowest score that they can, to purposely bring down the score, the overall score. It doesn't seem like that's happened this time. It seems like audiences, for the most part, like it.
What's not
Yeah,
to
everyone,
like?
everyone I've talked to pretty much has liked it. One of my nephews wasn't really a fan of it. My brother, all he said was it's not his favorite MCU movie, but that's fine. It wasn't my favorite MCU movie either. But I mean, it was still a really good time. I think.
Well, the thing
They
is,
did a great
I
job.
don't go into the theater, and I assume you gentlemen are the same. I don't go into the theater expecting that every single movie I see is going to be the best movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, you can't go into that mentality because then it puts too much pressure on it, you know, and then you're ultimately going to be let down no matter what.
Yep, says Fatherly Phantom says Hollywood Reporter says 120 million domestic, 240 global, and that's what I had seen on Murphy's Multiverse. So who knows who's right? But it made it outgrossed any other Ant-Man movie so far, which is a good thing. I think this is a good movie. I mean, we got a lot of quality out of it. We got Paul Rudd, who's always entertaining in these movies. I think Kathryn Newton did a great job as Cassie Lang. Michelle Pfeiffer was tremendous as Janet Van Dyne. Jonathan Majors was absolutely incredible as
I
King
can't wait to
Conqueror.
talk about that.
It was what? Incredible?
Absolutely incredible. And yes, Carrie, the second post-credit scene was an absolute 10.
Well, you knew Carrie
And-
would like that. She loved Loki so much, so yeah.
But
Boom.
that's the phase one Easter egg that I'm going to talk about. It has to do with the second post-credit scene. So I can't wait to talk about that.
One Easter egg, you said?
A phase one Easter egg.
Ooh, okay. I can't wait for
We're
that.
going all the way back.
Yeah, I didn't think about it till later that night after the movie, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I put some dots together, and I'm like, that'd be cool if they did that. They may never actually reference it, but it's referenced in the comic. But let's get back to the movie. I mean, it starts out with Scott Lang sort of enjoying the good life. You know, he saved the universe. He's written a book. He's back with his daughter. He's got his whole family together. Things are going well. His rebellious teenage daughter is calling him out for not helping anymore. You know, she's getting arrested.
Yeah, I like that because it's funny because in the first Ant-Man movie, that's exactly the type of person he was. If you remember, the whole reason why he was in jail to begin with is because he felt bad for some customers that were getting screwed over, and he ended up what was it like? Didn't he end up breaking into the security of the company and?
He hacked into their systems and returned.
Yeah, he hacked into their systems and gave the people their money back and everything, and ended up going to jail for it. And I think Cassie saw that, you know, and I feel like she probably saw him as a hero because of that move more so than him being Ant-Man.
Totally agree. And she started to see a change in him where he's getting comfortable and he's no longer worried about other people. It just seems to be very, you know, egocentric. And she kind of calls him out for it. And then, you know, we get the whole, hey, I built this machine to send a ping to the quantum realm. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Janet Van Dyne, Michelle Pfeiffer gets a little upset or a little scared that she's doing so because, you know, she's never spilled the beans about what actually has went down in the quantum realm.
Okay, here's my question about that whole scene. You know, how she shut it down and then it turned itself back on and sucked them in. Did they even reference once they got there how they were able to turn it back on and suck them in there? That's the one thing I thought about later. I was like, wait a minute, they never even mentioned how they turned it back on. You know, it's assumed. I mean, I just assumed that it was Kang, and that's how he knew they were there, and that's how he knew to search for them.
No, it was MODOK. He told him later on. MODOK told Cassie that he was the one who figured out her machine.
He was the one that did it. He received the signal, but he never went into any detail about how he remoted into it and turned it on or anything like that.
Yeah, turned it back on.
What he did, yeah.
It's MODOK, by the way. Wait, isn't that MODOK?
And yes, the apple does not fall.
I want to mention that, like, Cassie, it was getting on my nerves at the beginning how sassy she was to him, you know? And I thought, all right, maybe this is what the critics are talking about. You know, maybe this is why they didn't like it. I don't know, because I went in there thinking, all right, I got to find something that they're talking about to not like this movie, and I didn't, but I thought she was a little sassy at the beginning, and maybe that's what everyone was complaining about.
I have a theory about why the critics may not have liked it, if you guys want to deviate from talking about the plot for a minute.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I think the reason why audiences liked it and critics didn't, now I didn't read all of the critic reviews. Wow, I can't talk. I didn't read all of them, but I think the overall consensus seems to be that audiences went in expecting this to be a piece of the larger MCU puzzle. Audience members went in knowing that, you know, they could watch this movie knowing that it's going to set up a bunch of other movies. And I don't think critics appreciate that. I don't think they like that. I think they want to go in and be able to appreciate a movie for being a movie, a standalone thing that can be seen and accepted on its own without having to be a part of a larger thing. So I think that's where the separation is with the critics versus the audience members. Audiences like us, you know, nerds who go in and we're like, yes, we want to see more of this. We want to see how this connects to the other movies. We want to see how Kang is going to set up, you know, the multiverse war and all of this stuff that's going to be happening. How's it going to link to Loki? And I think your average critic is going in like, what the hell is going on? What is this? I didn't watch
that's how comics are written. That's how comics are written. So that they could all flow in, you know, into one.
But these are movie critics, they're not comic critics.
Yeah, they just don't. They don't get it. Apparently,
they do not. No. So I think I think they are misjudging it. I think they are criticizing it for being for not being the thing that they wanted it to be.
It's like Keith's friend. I don't know if it was his friend at work who didn't like Infinity War because they didn't have a proper backstory when they brought all the characters in. You don't have to set them up every single movie. They're already there.
I think friend is a bit of a strong word.
That's pretty strong. I just said that would be like seeing Infinity War without seeing any other MCU movie is like joining Lost in like the 7th episode of season 6 and being, you know what, this show's terrible. I don't know who any of these people are, and they haven't explained them.
And yeah, Carrie, you are absolutely right. It's going to be a challenge for the MCU. It's very deep now. There are so many movies that they've made. I think this is. I don't know if this is something that they expected when they decided, hey, we're going to make an ever expanding universe. You know, it could be that Kevin Feige did not foresee this being, this big of a problem. Because if you think about it, I believe this has got to be one of the first movie universes, right?
Oh yeah,
that's what I thought.
That has really done a serialized storytelling with a bunch of different characters over. Yeah.
The only thing that's come remotely close to this would be the DC animated universe, where, if you didn't see a few episodes of the Batman animated series, you weren't going to miss anything. Like you could go into the Justice League and be like, oh yeah, I know who Batman is, but like it helped to have some of the backstory. So it's like, oh hey, I've seen that villain before.
It's like the Star Wars Skywalker saga. That's about the longest. It's 9 movies. But there's nothing else like it.
Well, yeah, you have universes, but it's usually the same character. Like you got 9 films with Harry Potter. You got all that. This is going different characters all over the place.
And this has been going on since 2008, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
15 years.
It's a long time. A lot of movies.
And yet, it's a good problem to have when you're that successful and going that long.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts to get this way. And I think for the most part, they do a fairly decent job of keeping, people engaged. I know it kind of hurt with so much coming out on Disney Plus in Phase 4, all at once, but we have heard that they're slowing down. The latest report is we're only getting 2 Disney Plus shows this year, Secret Invasion and Loki Season 2. Everything else is getting pushed back. Yeah. And we know that we're getting, Guardians in May, and then we're not getting another MCU film until November now with the Marvels. So they're definitely...
You said that. And what rings through my head is, here we go getting Guardians in May. like Bugs Bunny. Here we go gathering nuts in May. Oh, that's fun. Anyway.
Yes. But getting back to the movie, we finally find out that Janet, well, we've all known that Janet has been hiding a few things from them. We find out that she actually had a relationship with Kang back in the quantum realm. He crashed. She kind of helped him. They both kind of saved each other.
Relationships, all right, especially with Bill Murray's character.
Are you referring to Lord Kryler?
Yeah.
I didn't want it. But they forced it.
I didn't really want the title Lord.
This is why he didn't last very long after meeting Henry. Not Hank. Henry.
I thought he was going to have a bigger role in that movie, the way that they're kind of hyping up, like, oh, and you'll never believe who's in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Bill freaking Murray is in this. That's right. We got William Murray himself to star in this movie, and I was just like, oh my god, how did you get him to do some goofy-ass movie? He hates that kind of stuff. He has not wanted to do goofy movies in a long time. He wants to do, like, weird avant-garde serious stuff lately. And to get him into a cartoon, basically, the most of this was green screen. To get him into this giant cartoon to play a goofy-ass character, I was like, oh my god, he's probably going to have this big role. Not really, but he was fun.
And yes, Carrie, we did know Bill Murray was going to be in the movie. That was announced a while ago. We heard he was playing Kryler, who's a very, very little-known character from the comics. I think he's been in 1 or 2 comics, but it really didn't have anything to do.
I think it was on the last preview when he walked out off the ship.
We discussed it during what was it, our first trailer review, something like that. It was one of our trailer breakdowns for Ant-Man. We had heard the news and we talked about it then.
Well, he was on the trailer.
Yeah, that's why we talked about it.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think we have to hit every plot point. But some of the things I liked about it, they did, connect to the first movie quite a bit with Cassie and Yellow Jacket, MODOK's sort of relationship, knowing that he was the what did she call him? The bee man who attacked her in her room or whatever.
Yep. I was attacked by a giant bee in a room that was 6.
I thought that was. I was wondering how they were going to do MODOK because, I mean, it's really tough to take a giant head dude and put him in kind of a serious movie, especially a movie that where we all thought for sure. I'll be the first to admit that what we may have been a little off for once. I know we're normally 100% correct, but we really thought somebody was gonna kick the bucket in this movie. And I thought this I'm thinking going into this is going to be a serious movie. How are they going to have MODOK in this? The giant-headed goofball, especially the last time I personally saw him was in the Patton Oswalt. Was it claymation? What kind of animation is that? 3D something or other. Anyway, it was Patton Oswalt in that
on Hulu.
Show. It was hilarious, but again, he was a goofball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Fatherly Fandom said, I was surprised that no one died. Did Kang the Conqueror die?
I don't think so.
That Conqueror, yes. That variant did die, yes.
Because he was basically sucked into where... Yeah, I'm kind of with Doug. He got sucked into where the big shrinkies, or the giant pills and the shrinky things were going on at once. I think he may have... Yeah. He may have got sucked into another universe or something along those lines. Because I got a feeling
where they were at.
Yeah, that's right. Fatherly Fandom. He got sucked off into an even Quantumania realm.
Careful, you're gonna get us demonetized. Okay.
Refresh my memory. Did Kang die at the end of Loki? He Who Remains did, and that was a Kang variant. But then remember when Loki came back and he was talking to Mobius. I said Mobius, not Morbius, Dave. Settle down. But that, the Kang statue was there, so we are getting into all the different Kang variants. And I think it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned Loki because I thought it was kind of funny that He Who Remains was kind of like, yeah, wait till you think I'm bad. Wait till you see my variants. And this Kang the Conqueror was also like, yeah, you may think I'm bad, basically, but I'm going to help you guys because the rest are worse. They all keep saying that. They all think they're doing the right thing, and yet they're causing, this multiversal war, erasing timelines and doing what they think is best. The ends don't always justify the means.
I got the feeling that He Who Remains, though, didn't care anymore. Like, I felt like he had been alone and just kind of like at the end of all time for so long, or whatever, equivalent to time you could equate to him being there, that I think when Sylvie said that she was gonna, kill him, I'm pretty sure he was probably like, all right, sure. I mean, it's gonna suck for you, but I don't really care either way. That's the kind of feeling that I got from that version of Kang.
Like him getting the sacred timeline going, stopping the multiversal war. He was like, I'm kind of bored now. This kind of sucks.
Yeah, go ahead, whatever. It's gonna suck for you because my variants are gonna be making a mess of everything. But by all means, go ahead, off me. But this version in Quantumania, he was like, no, you need me, keep me around.
And yes, this Kang did say the same thing. So I think every Kang is going to believe that they're in the right.
Yeah.
And, we obviously the first post-credit scene, we saw the Council of Cross-Time Kangs. And I'm sure they're doing what they think is also right.
That's why I think this Kang died, because there's going to be one within that bunch who's going to keep moving forward and, doing bad things.
Well, do you think they're going to start working together because Immortus Kang, the Kang with the big sort of hat at the end, was like they've started touching the multiverse. We need to stop that or whatever. So I think that maybe the Council and the three big ones, Roma Tut, Kang Prime, I'm calling him because I don't know who he really is, and Immortus are going to be like, we need to kind of take care of these pesky Avengers and pesky superheroes. I think they might start working together a little bit until I have a theory, and I don't really like it. But
You have a theory and you don't like it.
a little bit.
I actually don't hear that from you too often. Usually,
I know.
you've got a theory is because you're like really excited about this idea that you've had.
And the reason I don't think the Kang, the Conqueror from this movie, is dead, I think he's coming back. And I think he's going to be. I think the Avengers Kang Dynasty is going to be about the Avengers taking on the Council of Crosstime Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be battle. And I think that's going to end with Kang the Conqueror, who got sucked into wherever he went, coming back as the Beyonder for Secret Wars. I think he's going to tap into some additional energy, additional power, and I think he's going to be the one who kind of puts together Battle World and starts bringing all these universes together for Secret Wars. But I think that would be kind of
Well,
cheap to bring him back like that.
If you remember, he can be dead now because he said he does not. He said in this movie he does not live his life linearly on a linear timeline. He's already been to the future, so if he pops up again, he can still be the same person. He's just the one who died with Ant-Man. But since he's already been to the future and we move into the future, he could be the same one. Just
I
not
don't.
that
I don't think that's how it works. So I was thinking about that based on what he had said. How he was like, how he kept insisting to Scott. He's like, "Oh yeah, I can take you back." And no, he even said to, oh my God,
Janet.
Michelle, yeah, Jane. He basically implied the same thing. Yeah, I can take you back, so you won't have lost any time. But we know, based on what they had discussed when they went on their time heist, that that's not how time travel works, especially in the MCU. If he were to have taken her back, it would have branched off into a new timeline. She would not have actually gone back to her timeline. And so I think that's the same thing with Kang. Even if a version comes back, it would just be a variant. I don't think it would be that one that, if he did die, I don't believe it would ever be that one.
Well, that's the tricky part because he said he's already lived in the future. He's already been there, and then that's where he ended up in the quantum realm.
I think that's one thing they have not explained yet. I think you are able to go into the future, you just can't go into the past. I think that's what.
That's what starts the new timelines.
Yeah, exactly.
So if he's been to the future, and then he's already come back and died here, that started a new timeline.
Yeah.
Died in the quantum realm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. As confusing as that all is, and that's probably another reason why critics didn't like it too.
Yeah.
And who knows
Well, and
which
I think-
timeline we're going to follow from here on out? Are we going to follow the timeline where they still meet up with Kang later?
Is
I
this
think
why
they're
you
going
don't
to keep
like
it as simple
multiverse,
as
Dave?
possible.
Yeah, it's funky. I'm glad.
I
That
think they're gonna
this
keep it-
phase is going to be over.
I think they're going to keep it as simple as possible. I don't think they're going to make it as confusing as they could. I think they're going to keep Kangs that are dead not coming back, possibly. Only because, they only have so many movies, and they could get so convoluted that no one would know. It'd be like the first episode of Legion on FX when you're like, I really don't know what just happened. I think they're going to keep it as simple as possible, and I think that's
show
why
was a trip.
that was. But I think that's why we met the Council of Crosstime Kang, so we could see all the different variants, and as they pop up in other projects down the line, people won't be like, well, which Kang is this or this? They'll know that it's just one of his variants and not the Conqueror.
The reason why I'm not convinced that version of Kang is actually dead is because of Scott second guessing himself towards the end. So I'm jumping like towards the end of the movie here for a minute, but the way that he was, again, going back to the way that he was kind of strutting down the street, just like he was in the beginning of the movie, and the way the music kind of dropped off, and it was almost like the color faded, and he was like, he is dead, right? We did stop him?
Well, no, remember, he said if he wasn't helping us, it was going to be the end of all people. Did I just cause the end of all people? So he's believing what Kang told him, that he was the only one who could stop the pending doom that's coming.
But do you think he's convinced that Kang is dead, or do you think he believes that
Yeah.
he may be just shrunk down even further.
I think he thinks that King is dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. He thinks he's dead.
And I don't even think Ant-Man really knows enough about variants to know there's probably other Kings out there. Even though he kind of talked about it, he's probably oblivious to it. You know, he's happy. He's like, hey, I saved the day again. I got closer with my daughter. You know, we had a great time. Hank has these super smart idiots.
His coffee is now $12.99.
Do you think he has to pay for it now that guy doesn't think he's Spider-Man?
Probably.
Spider-Man gets free coffee. Ant-Man has got to pay. I felt bad. I'm like, man, Spider-Man
I
is
think that definitely, if Stan Lee was alive, that was his role right there. He would have been that guy.
Oh, yeah, it would have been, for sure.
Yeah, and I
Thanks
think you're
a
right,
lot,
Fatherly
Spider-Man.
fandom. He was definitely a little worried about the threat King mentioned. Now, will he mention that to other Avengers if he sees them? Is he going to let them know? Or are they all going to have their run-ins with Kang in some way or another and then be like, oh, we've got a problem?
I think that would be the best way to do it. That they all have a run-in with a Kang and they all like, wait a minute, and then they all what's that called? They all congregate or get together and say, what, you know this guy too? Mm-hmm. And that's how we get into the Kang Dynasty.
Well, I wonder now, now that Cassie has encountered Kang, when we do finally get to see the Young Avengers form, do you think she's going to kind of be made the the leader of the Young Avengers just because she now has the most experience in dealing with him?
Well, remember, the Young Avengers were formed by a Kang variant. So I think if we do see the Young Avengers coming up soon, it will be possibly Iron Lad. Yeah. Even though I was looking, I didn't see any Iron Lads in the Council of Cross-Time Kings, but that makes sense because he wants to stop himself from becoming,
so he wouldn't
conqueror.
show up to the council. Yeah.
Correct.
I can't wait for him to actually show up in the movies. I'm assuming they're going to do that. I would hope they would.
But just imagine when Cassie finds out that he's a Kang variant.
Oh, she'll be pissed. Scott will tell her you can't trust him.
You got some splaining to do, Mr. Iron Lad.
That would be really interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Like, I'm wondering, would that end up being like one of the upcoming, movies where we've got like a combo of characters, or would that be the next Ant-Man movie where we've got Cassie dealing with this? Like, no, Dad, you don't understand. I got to trust him. He says he can help us, and that's the whole drama of the movie is.
I think if there's another. At the end of it didn't say Ant-Man will return. It said Kang will return. But we know Ant-Man's going to be in the Kang Dynasty. I mean, if you look it up, he's like one of two people listed in the cast.
I don't think anyone's been confirmed for the Kang Dynasty yet. But if there is... and yes, there are some male Young Avengers, Carrie. We have Hulkling. We have Wiccan and Speed, which you met in WandaVision. That's the... I don't want to say it's the Scarlet Witch's kids, but yeah, it's variants of her kids.
I gotta tell you, I am not at all excited about Young Avengers. If they just completely take over the MCU, I will probably lose interest.
I don't think they will. But also Patriot from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Isaiah Bradley's, I think it was his nephew.
Yeah.
He's the Patriot. He's like kind of the Captain America of the group. So there's quite a few.
Hoping we would have gotten more out of him from Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Would have been great.
All right, I pulled it up. I'm going to see if any of these people are confirmed, but it already has a cast.
And yes, Kang Dynasty is also being written by Jeff Loveness, who wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
And
my nephew.
He wrote my favorite version of Rick and Morty, the Vat of Acid episode. He wrote that.
Oh, that was a great episode.
That was a great episode. It was so sad, though. I legitimately felt bad for Morty in that one.
Oh my God, that's what made me laugh so hard in that episode. Is that when Jerry just clicked the button? Jerry. Oh my God, that was so funny.
Oh, what an ass.
Let's see.
But I keep telling my nephew, who was very upset. He's like, the writer didn't have any other, writing credits besides Jimmy Kimmel. I'm like, he also wrote for Rick and Morty, and he likes Rick and Morty. And then I told him he's writing King Dynasty. He was like, oh, I'm just not happy. I'm like, two things you got to remember. The script he turned in probably wasn't what actually filmed. There was probably a bunch of rewrites during it, changes. Mm-hmm. So you can't base. And then I also said, remember one thing. The same writer that wrote Thor: The Dark World wrote Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So, depending on how much they use of it, I mean, you can't judge a writer by one movie.
It's not like there's a single writer, right?
Wow,
there's probably multiple people involved.
Yeah, there's definitely multiple people, but the main writer was the same for both those movies. And I think we all...
Dave, I didn't know that either. That was just as surprising to me.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, the only two that are confirmed and not rumored are obviously Jonathan Majors. And guess the other confirmed person in that movie.
Anthony Mackie.
Yes. Wow.
Nice Fatherly Fandom put in the comments.
Oh, did he? Well, Jeremy Renner is also rumored, but he ain't going to be in it.
Yeah.
If he is, it's going to be a cameo of some type, just hopefully he's healing good.
Or what they'll do is they'll mocap his face onto somebody else's body.
MODOK, you mean?
Sure.
And remember, MODOK got to be an Avenger.
That was
probably one of the best parts of the movie. I loved that. That was great.
That was so well executed. I was dying laughing. No, I'm an Avenger. And they're like, yeah, of course. I was kind of sad that we won't be getting MODOK again, but I kind of understand it. So many people are comparing him to the villain from Spy Kids, George Lopez with the big glass, which I get. But that's the thing. I mean,
but MODOK's been in the comics for a long time.
Trying to explain to people that MODOK has always been goofy and weird looking. I mean, if you don't know, you're probably going to go in there and think, oh, this is ridiculous, and maybe not like it. But, I mean, and once again, he wasn't the best MODOK. Patton Oswalt from the Hulu was definitely a better MODOK. But this was great. I was worried that I wasn't going to enjoy MODOK in this, but I did. I thought, what's his name? Oh my God, what's the actor's name? Corey Stoll. I thought he was going to have trouble with it, but man, he was great in it. He usually does a really good job being serious and being a complete goofball in this. He nailed it, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, all he could do was not be a dick.
That's right.
Oh, that was amazing. He comes flying. I'm not a dick.
We get 3 of those.
He pretty much saved the Ant family because without that, Kang would have probably taken him over. And we got to talk about just how incredible Jonathan Majors did in that role. I mean, even when he's talking normally to like Ant-Man, you just feel the threat underneath what he's saying.
Tension.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I can't wait to see more of him. I'm so glad that he is going to be probably popping up everywhere for the next 2.5 years in the MCU because all the different ways he plays, like He Who Remains was kind of goofy and nonchalant. Then we get Kang the Conqueror, who's much serious. Yes, thanks, Father. Huge presence in every scene he's in. Then we get Roma Tut and we get Immortus.
Right there. Being able to portray variants of the same person and act a little bit different for each one. I mean, hats off to that guy. Just give him an Oscar now.
Yeah, and he wasn't angry all the time. He talked he related to you like Thanos did, but I think he did it better than Thanos. He was just like, all right, I'm going to explain it to you so that you can understand it. And now, if you don't want to do what I want you to do, I'm going to kill you.
It's like what Walt was talking about earlier, where he truly believes that what he's doing is the right thing, right? So I think that's what makes him and Thanos interesting villains, is the fact that they believe they're fully into their cause, and they think what they're doing is the right thing. They don't see themselves as a villain.
Right.
Just like the council won't see themselves as villain. They think they're doing what's right for everybody, and that's what makes it so much better. It's so much easier to enjoy. It's not like the comics where sometimes they're just evil for being evil. I think the MCU has done a good job, and
Yeah,
I hope that continues.
I hope so too. And yeah, I think Jonathan Majors is going to do a great job. It was a short clip, but even as he's portraying the other variants of Kang at the council, he seemed to kind of portray them a little bit different.
Oh yeah, like we got Roma Tut,
Mm-hmm.
who I hope after seeing him, I hope he shows up in the Fantastic Four movie because that would be incredible. Then we got who I only assume is Prime King. I don't know. I was looking for it, and I don't know if Fatherly Phantom or Dave, Doug, Carrie, anyone out there. I've never seen a Kang that looked like that, so I was just referring to him as Kang Prime or something. And then we had Immortus, which we know is basically Kang, the eldest Kang, who kind of steps away from his conquering and tries to go at it a little different. And there's a lot to what Immortus does, and he tricks the Avengers. He's the guy who married the Vision and the Scarlet Witch and Mantis and the Swordsman way back in the day. So it's going to be interesting to see how they take this, because a lot of times we have seen Kang and Immortus against each other, and because Kang wants to conquer and Immortus is like, I'm past that. We need to stop, and they kind of come at odds. But it seems like he is one of the leaders of the whole council. So I guess they only have so much time to tell stories. We don't have 12 comics a week coming out where they can really, show that off. But
some of those Kangs that they showed in the crowd there, they didn't appear to be the smartest people either. Just the most enthusiastic.
Oh God, that's going to be problematic.
Wasn't one of them a mushroom head?
oh yeah. Well, while you're saying
they
that,
didn't invite him. He just sort of showed up on his own. Like, we did not send him an invite. Who let him in?
Who let that guy in?
so I put up on the screen a comic book panel from the Council of Crosstown Kings, and you can see a lot of them are sitting in the crowd. They're like, one,
Yeah.
let's get them. They're not every king can be a genius, so it's
Right.
it's good that some of them are.
Oh, finally. Apparently it was Centurion. Okay.
Now he was the Scarlet Centurion in the comics, so I guess maybe they're changing it up a little bit. So, but there was in the when you see the big, like gladiator field or whatever that is, you see a red one, and I assumed he was the Scarlet Centurion.
Like the Scarlet
I got a question for you, Keith.
Yeah.
When it comes to Kang Dynasty, and they go to roll the credits, are we just going to see like 16 Jonathan Majors and credits flying by?
I hope so. I definitely hope so.
They need to list each and every one. Immortus, Jonathan Majors.
Or
Robert
just
Tut,
one Jonathan Majors on this side, and then all the just big line up right here.
Sitting here. There is an end credit scene, right?
I heard his one stipulation for playing Kang is he has to play more Kangs than Eddie Murphy ever played roles in a movie, so he can take that over. So that's not true. I'm just kidding.
that would be hilarious, though.
Yeah, it would. Oh, and that was reported on Gizmodo. Okay. I guess that makes sense. They're probably maybe not making him Scarlet.
Was there a King that looked like he was a boxer for Creed? Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that was there? That would be great if there was.
No, that's what
Creed is in the MCU. I hope
I'll
so.
have to. I'm gonna have to look the next time I see it. I didn't see it, but that would be great if it was.
You know what?
Because
I
that
was
movie-
talking to Sierra, who's not on here right now because she's still working, but she'll be back. About that scene that, like, I don't think even Keith noticed until I said it. It was like when Scott was the Baskin Robbins guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, all the other ones.
Oh, that was hilarious.
And then there was one voice in the background that said, "So there's ice cream." I thought that was hilarious. I was like, it's so quick, that, it's easy to miss, but I caught it.
That was really great that they showed that. I love the how you can have different versions depending on the different choices that you make. That was great. And I think we actually didn't we talk about that at our at the theater review, or I don't remember if we said that on camera, or if we were just kind of discussing it off to the side. But the idea that the reason they were able to come together at the end was because they all had the one singular goal of wanting to save Cassie. And I think we were talking about, do you think that if Kang is still alive, that version of Kang, do you think he's going to encounter all of his alternate selves, but then also have the same singular goal of we need to get out and conquer, also kill Scott?
Yeah. Make Scott Lang pay. I mean, it's very possible. If he is alive, I think that could be, definitely what we see and how he gets out, that singular purpose. Mm-hmm. Because that is the only thing that helps Scott, basically save his daughter.
It's crazy that Ant-Man killed Kang, and then he's killed how many other Avengers that he said, how many, if you're an Avenger, have I killed you before?
He got lucky. Let's be real. He definitely lucked out.
Well, remember, he also had...
That was not skill.
He had MODOK, he had the Wasp, he had Stature, or Stinger, or whatever
he had all
Cassie's
the
going by.
hands.
He had headphones in his ears?
Yeah. he had Hank Pym. So there was a lot going on. And I think, I was talking to my nephew about this, and he was like, they have a real problem with power levels of villains in the MCU. And I'm like, I don't think his level of power was an issue. He showed off how powerful he was. He was just so overconfident. He did not feel threatened by a guy who can shrink. He even made it, when the disdain in his voice when he's like, "What's it going to be, Ant-Man?"
And also when
I'm not an actor like that.
You before.
I liked it too when he's like, "Are you the one with the hammer?" No, that's Thor. Because obviously Thor probably made a bigger impression on him than, But I want to talk about the Council of Cross-Time Kangs. God, I'm having a tough time enunciating this evening. Just this evening. But if you look on the little pictures on the screen there, you're going to notice a little guy in a suit. You probably wonder why I singled him out.
Okay.
There's a lot of Kangs. Aha! I wonder if that's Mr. Griffon, who was in not Peter Griffin, but at one point in the time stream, Kang divided, and one of his Splinter versions ended up in the modern age, unable to travel through time anymore, and he basically became a businessman. And the reason I bring this up because he's the CEO of Quag Industries, which we saw in Loki on the destroyed Avengers compound, or the old Avengers building, Quag Industries. And in this comic run, he's the one who bought Stark Tower.
That's a deep dive, Keith.
That is.
It is. And well, it's funny because at one point he came about during the run when Sam Wilson was Captain America, Jane Foster was Thor, was the younger Vision. He actually takes over the Vision at one point and kind of turns him against the Avengers, and he does a bunch. But he's working with a Chitauri to get like a 3-piece, like sort of, I don't want to call it a crown. God, what is it? It doesn't matter. But it's like a 3-piece sort of thing. So he could start time traveling again. And he kind of uses this Chitauri. I think his name was Warbringer, but don't hold me to that. And I wonder if we're going to see a little something with this Mr. Griffin, where he's kind of stuck in the present day, trying to get out and taking on the Avengers and using anybody but that he can. And he does take over the Vision until Tony Stark kind of brings him back. But it was an interesting, it was an amulet, the Chitauri amulet. That's the word I was looking for.
I was going to say that word, but I said, I'd be wrong. Damn it.
But I thought that was interesting, seeing that guy in a suit like that, because it could just be an Easter egg that they're not going to talk about during this, phase of the multiverse, but maybe he'll be sometime after, come up and it'll be like, yeah, you killed all the Kangs, but I'm stuck here. And I'm basically a Kang too, even though I'm a little different. Yes, it is Reed Richards, tall guy. That would be great.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to look it up because I was trying to figure out what it was that you were saying. Mr. Griffin? As
Yeah,
in, like,
it's-
the Greek animal, the griffin, with the
It's
eagle
spelled.
head and
Here, I'll spell it for you.
Gryphon.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the griffin. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
But the fact that
that's
we kind of
interesting.
got that Easter egg in Loki with Quag Industries on the thing, and then we kind of see this guy there. I hope we see him because I thought that was an interesting run where he was just kind of like a businessman who they had no idea. But of course, the second post-credit scene also gave us kind of a businessman with Victor Timely, which I don't know if we're ready to talk about that. I'm always ready to talk about it.
Let's do it.
So, okay, let's do it. So,
All right, let's do it.
at some point after he was
Wait,
defeated.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Let me stop you there for a second. All right, go ahead.
So after he was defeated, he traveled back, I think 1901, to Timely, Wisconsin. And he basically spent decades there. He became the mayor, and he was basically using all of his future tech to build it up so that they're more advanced than everybody else. And so he basically, by the time the current age comes around, he like has this whole town under his control, and he does it. Now, are you guys ready for the Phase 1 Easter egg that was
Yes,
referenced
I've been
in the
waiting to
second
hear this.
post-credit scene? So,
So,
in the comics,
in the comics,
Victor Timely
Victor Timely?
works with Dr. Phineas T. Horton.
Oh,
Now, you
Phineas
guys are
and Ferb?
not a Phineas and Ferb fame, but do you guys know who Dr. Phineas Horton is?
No.
He is the inventor of the original android Human Torch, who we saw in Captain America: The First Avenger.
Really?
Yes. So, is it possible with Victor Timely being in Loki, we may be introduced to Dr. Phineas Horton in that show, and we may see the world's first superhero, the android Human Torch.
This was in what? Captain America, the First Avenger?
It was, yes.
Yes.
When they were at the Stark International
Stark
or the
Expo.
Stark Expo, this was there.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch. I don't even remember. Like, I remember him going to the Stark Expo, but was this like in the background kind of thing, or what?
Yes.
Nope.
It's just
I
like
don't
the
even
picture he has
remember
on
the
there.
Human
It floated
Torch
up.
character.
Yeah, it was just him
When you were-
standing in a tube.
Huh?
Yeah, when they were floating up, like,
No
to get
kidding.
a wide shot, that's the shot they had.
Wow. All right.
It was
And so-
right before the little Spider-Man.
They had better pay that off. So, like,
I
was
hope they
his-
do.
Is it that he's the inventor in the comics, or was his name listed in this movie too?
I didn't see his name listed in the movie that I saw, but he was from the comics. And a lot of
Okay.
people thought that the Vision was based off the Human Torch's android body, but we found out later in the comics that was retconned to say it wasn't true, and the original Human Torch came back. But the original Human Torch fought with Namor and Captain America in the Invaders in World War II. So I think they threw this in just as an Easter egg to kind of reference one, Chris Evans playing the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies, but also that the Human Torch was part of the Invaders in the comics. So
Okay.
I really hope, I would love to see that paid off in Loki, where we actually see a Human Torch android before the Fantastic Four.
I need you now then to update your pinned tweet on Twitter, because you've had that same one for it feels like at least 16 years. I'm pretty sure, but I need you to update your pinned tweet with a little video clip of them, moving past this Human Torch android, and in your caption explain this theory, because that is really good. And also, I need you to tag Kevin Feige in the MCU, so they'll be like, "Oh, we do got to pay that off. We forgot."
It's so good that I don't think it's going to happen. that's
That's why.
we
That's
had
why
some
Keith
theories
needs to
that were so
remind them,
good that
because they may have forgotten.
yeah.
I
Well,
hope not, but I will definitely update my tweet.
And
I
yes,
think-
Scholarly Fandom, we had better see that in Loki Season 2. That would be incredible, because that they're, obviously that's probably going to be a scene in Loki Season 2 where they're tracking down all of these Kang variants, and probably in an episode Victor Timely. So, yeah.
But did Horton
Jonathan
wear a
may.
Well, we gotta
Absolutely,
mention-
he did.
There we go. We have to mention how the 100%, how we're right 100% of the time. What we mentioned that Keith was right about two things the other night, but we didn't say what they were. We can mention
Oh,
them.
right. You referenced that in our At the Theater review that you can watch now on YouTube. Like and
It's on
subscribe.
YouTube? You should go to that channel. Yeah, there you go. Nice job.
You want
Keith.
to
Right on
remind us what those things were, Dave?
How Kang crashed into the quantum realm. It was in the trailer, and Keith predicted it, and boom. And what was the other one, Keith?
It was that Corey Stoll was going to be MODOK because of the way he shrunk down, and he was all disproportionate.
And these were mentioned in previous videos, which you can also check out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Now, it is a shame that they that was kind of spoiled on the internet prior to us going to see the movie. But yes, you did in fact call that out even before that. You had said it will probably end up being him. I do remember you saying that. And I was sitting there thinking, nah, they wouldn't do that. It's not going to... There's no way that we're going to see him again. But yeah, it does make perfect sense. Of course, he was shrunk down to the quantum realm. And that's why I think this version of Kang is still alive.
He definitely could be.
So he shrunk down even... So, going with your theory then, you know how Scott had to shrink down to get to where he needed to be? I don't know what that thing was called. Into the... Was it a battery or the heart of his ship that made it work? Mm-hmm. So Kang went into the same thing. So he's even smaller in the quantum realm.
Yep.
In your theory, that he's still alive, but even smaller than that.
Yeah.
And now he's down there making his own army in that realm.
And
yeah,
who's
probably.
to say that the device because Scott had like a handful of those discs. Who's to say that they're not still there with him? Like, do they just vanish after they're used, or do you think
they do.
could see the get what's left of the tech and retrofit it or whatever, like kind of use it in order to see, so this is a way that because Thanos is able to do that with the time traveling devices. Who's to say that Kang, being a major genius that he is, couldn't figure out, that's how Pym particles work. Okay.
Yeah, because they said he needed the Pym particles to get out, and he never had them, and now he does.
Mm-hmm.
He may be seeing Kang the Conqueror coming back. And one of the things that, like, why couldn't MODOK come back to the main world? Because we saw Scott do it, we saw Janet Van Dyne do it, but I think both of them had a anchor. Because remember when Scott went down to the quantum realm, he had Cassie calling out to him, and he was able to grow and get back to where she was. Where I think that's why Janet Van Dyne couldn't escape for the longest time out of the quantum realm, because she didn't have that anchor. And then when Scott finally was there, she could grab on and talk to Hank, and they could finally find her. So I wonder if he's going to find some sort of anchor to bring him back and either get back to the real world or just the quantum realm. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
What was really awesome is that they went through a portal at the end, a Rick and Morty portal.
Yeah, you know what? I've been meaning to ask you that, Dave. Why did the MCU just copy Rick and Morty? I mean, come on. It's the Council of Kangs. Rick and Morty much.
That's actually
Portals.
Backwards.
Rick and
they
Morty
copied
much.
Kang.
I mean, they just straight up copied it. They watched a bunch of Rick and Morty and then wrote this movie. Oh wait, there were comics before. Oh.
Was there a critic who said that online or something?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, there was, and because I read that review and I'm just like, guy, come on, man, like.
Well, Fatherly Fandom is right. They have hired 2 Rick and Morty writers, Jeff Loveness, who wrote Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and he'll be writing Kang Dynasty, and also the writer from Loki Season 1 and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Michael Waldron, who's also writing the Avengers Secret Wars. So they are definitely leaning heavy into the Rick and Morty writers.
I think that's okay, because like I said in our At the Theater review, I got the feeling like this movie felt a little bit more like they were willing to explore the goofier side of the MCU. Like they've got MODOK and they've got broccoli-headed alien. So that's why I said it reminded me very much of like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of movie. And so if you bring on these more comedic writers, I think they're actually a perfect fit if this is the direction they want to take these movies. Like sci-fi comedy kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. I had a feeling I'm going to like the, whatever movies they do. Because I've loved every Rick and Morty. And yeah, Jessica Gao, is that how you say it? Gao?
Gao, yeah.
I thought She-Hulk was terrible, but she did write some Rick and Morty that I liked. So,
Once again, certain writers, as they're, they finish their script, it gets changed out in editing and post-production and everything else. So I like She-Hulk, but I don't think she's set up for anything else, any future any future writing projects in the MCU at this point.
Yeah.
I'm good with comedy, but they don't do a great job with the overall tone. Yeah, I think Ant-Man.
Which ones are we talking about, though? Are we talking about the Loveness and Waldron? Because I think they do a pretty good job.
They do. I think, it's funny. I think they do a better job of tone than like we saw in Thor: Love and Thunder. Because Taika Waititi really went overboard with the goofiness. And it hurt it a little bit. I don't mind the comedy when they're cracking jokes and being funny and maybe a little silly, but, Hammers being jealous of other Hammers was kind of a bit too much.
That was a bit too
And when Sif lost her arm and he just blew it off, like, well, you'll see her arm in Valhalla. You won't be there, but your arm will. I mean, there are moments where you got to reel in the comedy.
Yeah.
You don't have to go over the top like that.
I wonder if they were afraid to keep it at the same tone as Ragnarok. I feel like they're like, look, Ragnarok was great. We cannot have another Dark, whatever that movie was.
Dark World?
Yeah, sure. Thor: Dark World. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it? I didn't see it. Was it any good?
You didn't see it?
I'm teasing. No, I think they might have been afraid to get stuck with another Thor: Dark World, and they were probably thinking, look, Ragnarok was so good, crank the comedy up to 20, because that must be the thing that everybody likes. And it was too much, like you said.
1 and 3 Thor movies are good, and 2 and 4, well, 2 was terrible, but 4 was not as good.
Yeah.
There was parts of 4 that I liked, but overall it was not. It was a little under average on the Doug scale, I believe. I rated a little higher at the theater, but my time.
Same. I was looking at all the different posters that had been made prior to Thor: Love and Thunder that had been made for Guardians Volume 3. And all of these fan-made posters all included Thor in it. And I think that going into Thor: Love and Thunder, I don't know about you two, but I really thought that we were going to have more of the Guardians hanging out with him.
Yeah, I did too.
Throughout the movie, rather than like the 5 minutes that we got.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Attack on Show says I actually like the second Thor. Carrie does too. And once again, everything is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
What we like, you may not like. What we all may agree on certain things. But I was just not a fan of the Dark World. There was parts of it I loved. Loki was great in it. He's, Tom Hiddleston's almost great in everything. But overall, I just was. The villain was about as one-dimensional as you can possibly be, and I was just utterly bored by 90% of that movie.
And he's a good actor, just not in that movie.
Yeah. And once again, I sometimes feel you watch this. Thanks. Sometimes what you see on the screen has been so edited down. Like, there may have been a lot more scenes with Malekith that made it a little, his story a little better, but they cut it out for time or maybe something else, and it just didn't work.
Well, you guys, did you see the cut scenes from Love and Thunder where Zeus was actually helping Thor out?
Yeah.
I haven't.
I felt like a lot of those scenes would have actually made the movie a bit better. I mean, I get why they didn't go that direction. They want to set up Hercules to, be more of an anti-hero or a villain, if you will. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to be, but I think if it was literally just for that little setup, that end credit scene, not worth it.
Yeah.
Some of those cut scenes were better.
And they could always have some.
Do the editors actually edit that, or is Waititi still in control because he's the director?
He's still in control.
So he had full.
Yeah, I'm sure he was probably looking at it and like, you know what, that doesn't flow right. That doesn't really tell the story that I wanted to tell after all. And I think they, I'm gonna be kind of speaking out of my my butt here for a minute because I don't know anything about the filmmaking industry, obviously, but I was under the assumption that when they cut for the day, they have what they call dailies, and they look at what they recorded during that shoot, and they decide whether they need to go and reshoot a scene again, or whether what they have during that day is good to keep. So I almost wonder if, like, prior to it going to editing, Taika Waititi saw it and said, you know what, this scene just really isn't working the way they wanted to. Let's go back and shoot this instead.
And they do that. They will look at the daily stuff they shoot and see if they have to go back. But then they put it all together. And then maybe when they see the flow, they're like, I don't know what you're thinking on October 8th. But those scenes are terrible. We need to reshoot them. Or, as they put it all together. Like a daily may be good, but then when they start piecing it all together, that's when we get the reshoots and everything else, that we're supposed to be getting for Secret Invasion coming up.
Well, all of that.
No, I thought it was Clayface.
All of that tangent was basically for me to say I cannot wait for Quantumania to be on Blu-ray so I can get it.
It'll probably be out on Disney Plus first.
Another time.
Yeah, but I want those deleted scenes.
And I want to be able to go frame by frame through some of the stuff to see what pops up.
See which Kangs are actually in that audience.
Yes, I want to do the same thing.
I'm sure the day that comes out, that'll be popping up all over the place.
I'm telling you, we're going to get E.T. in there.
Yep, oh yeah.
An E.T. Kang.
And we'll probably get, Darth Sidious and
Jabba the Hutt.
I love democracy.
Wow, we've been over an hour on this topic. Do we have time for the other ones? Or are we going to go
holy
long
cow.
tonight?
I kind of figured we would go a while on Quantumania. It was a big movie. It was finally like a return to something. I mean, what did we really have to say about Avatar? It was a movie.
It was a movie.
But with Quantumania, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned, I was laughing, I was on Twitter today and someone was talking about, someone was like, oh, Avatar, like the Thursday night pre-shows, whatever they're called, I can't remember what they're called.
Premiere.
Ant-Man and the Wasp made the exact same amount on Thursday night as Avatar The Way of Water did.
Nice.
And someone was like, yeah, but it's not going to make as much money as Avatar Way of the Water. And the guy's like, Disney's still laughing all the way to the bank. They're both Disney properties.
Right? It's all Disney. What do they care? This could be the first Ant-Man movie to make $1 billion, though.
I think it could. We got to see how it does second week. And, I mean, word of mouth has been good, so I think it probably has a pretty good chance. It did open in China, which not all MC movies do anymore. And if that does, big numbers over there, I think it'll definitely get to $1 billion now. It didn't do great the first weekend there. I think it made $19 million.
This movie offended them? Wow. All right.
No.
What was it into that you would think would offend them,
I mean, usually they don't like,
don't like
so many things. Anything that goes against, like, they've got, like, certain cultural rules, like, you're not allowed to have any LGBTQ mentions, you're not allowed to have, there's, like, a couple of things. Like, empowered women, I don't think they're allowed to have much of that. She-Hulk, I don't believe, is allowed over there.
Yep. Well, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness wasn't because of American No, because it was American Chavez's Two Moms.
Of course.
And then I can't remember what it was about Thor: Love and Thunder. Maybe they just didn't like it.
Oh, I like this question from Fatherly Fandom. What's your guys' rank of the Ant-Man movies? Well, this one for me would definitely be the best. So this would be, I think it would go 3-1-2 for me.
Same with me, yeah. I was just about to say that, 3-1-2 for me.
Yeah, 3-1-2. I agree. But the one thing I was disappointed about, we still don't know who Sonny Birch was working for in Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was not told in this movie. I want my money back. Where? We march at dawn. Who's with you?
King.
There is so much of that movie that I've forgotten. Like, I remember a few of the story beats. Like, I know there was that character Ghost. I know that they were trying to get Janet out of the quantum realm. That was, like, the main driving force. Like, Scott was like, I keep seeing... Oh, yeah, and he was under house arrest, right?
Yep.
And so everything that they did, he had to hide from... what's his name? The FBI agent.
Who was in this movie for one scene.
Yeah. And it looks like Carrie says 3-1-2 also. I don't know about Fatherly Fandom, Attack on Show, what your ranking of the Ant-Man movies are.
It was one of the more forgettable movies. I think its main problem was the fact that it came right after Infinity War. Like, how do you follow that up? It was such a tough spot for that movie to be in.
It was, but I agree with Fatherly Fandom. I think it's a little better than some people remember. I mean, it had an interesting story. It moved along well.
It's fine, you know.
Not saying it was bad at all. Yeah. It was
no. I didn't say it was bad. It's just, it's a little bit more...
You said it was terrible.
You didn't like it at all. Let's all come down.
I liked it better than Dark Knight. I liked it better than Wonder Woman 84.
That's not saying
an
much.
Attack on Show says 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
Okay.
See, and I do the first Ant-Man movie I really enjoyed that movie too. I rewatched it on, what day was it?
Saturday.
Yeah, it was Saturday. Sully was sick and he was sleeping, so I rewatched it, and I was like, "There's a lot in this I didn't remember," but I still, man, it really, Paul Rudd's ability to go from comedy to sort of more serious, at a drop of a hat, he does a really good job. But I definitely think Quantumania is better. But I think Ant-Man is.
Michael Pena.
I thought about that. I think it would have been weird if because this was, Carrie was mentioning earlier, this is kind of a family movie. It's about Hank and Janet and Hope, Cassie and Scott. And it would have been weird if he was just there to get pulled into the quantum realm. As much as I would have loved him being there, because he was the highlight of the Ant-Man and the Wasp and, Ant-Man. He was so great in both those movies. I just think it would have been a bit odd. I think hopefully we'll get him back if we get an Ant-Man 4.
He was hilarious. My favorite part is where he's, retelling how he, came across information. In both movies, it was great.
Wrong details. I think the serum was sublime. No. Wrong detail.
I still think Marvel missed out not having the chance before Endgame came out to have Lewis explain the entirety of the MCU leading up to Endgame.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that had better be a cutscene on the Blu-ray.
And yes, Fatherly Fandom.
Or do you want to go on to Last of Us? Since we are just cruising along here, it's up to you guys.
Well, do we have anything left to say about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania?
I think we pretty much covered everything. We talked about our new Avenger, right? And how he's not a dick anymore. So we got that. Talked about our Kang theories and everything. So yeah, I think we pretty much covered. And you talked about Victor Timely. So yeah.
And don't forget to hit us up at Twitter, leave a comment down below, and we will see you next time on Not Your Status Quo.